There are plenty of good reasons to watch this video. I mean, you want to learn something, you want to improve your understanding of the game, see some fantastic tactics. But the best reason to watch this video is because it has such a dirty trick. You rarely see it happening at the highest level. But it did happen in the game between young Nepomniachtchi and Vladimir Fedoseev. It's something I'm really excited, I'm thrilled to share it with you. So bear with me and let's have a look, and then we see how you can try to tackle the Petrov defense. Before I do that, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as I would like to see the channel grow and share more of such dirty swindles with you. Now, time to have a look at that exciting encounter, because a lot of things are happening in this game apart from the swindle we will get to see later. It's a very sharp game we will witness. So it's the Petrov defense, and of course it's possible to take the pawn on e5, but one of the most ambitious ways of playing is here to go for the move d4, just to go for an open game, open the center, make sure that your pieces can be developed very quickly, and that's the way how to put your opponent under pressure. Knight takes e4 is the main continuation for black, after which white goes for the move, bishop d3, attacking the knight on e4. Black supports the knight with the move d5, and we go knight takes e5. So still we have a symmetrical position, like in the main lines of this opening. Knight d7, and of course you can play in a solid way, aim for exchanges, but it of course makes it also a little bit easier for black. And a much sharper continuation is to play the move knight c3. To put the knight on e4 under pressure. Knight takes e5 was played, d takes e5. And now, of course, it's possible to play knight takes c3, b takes c3, in which we have a clash of structures, as white has doubled pawns on the c-file in that case, but a nice advanced pawn on e5. And thanks to that pawn on e5, we are able to launch a very strong initiative against the black pieces. Bishop b4 was played. Black is pinning the knight on c3, and after very interesting move castling kingside, white is sacrificing a pawn. Knight takes c3, b takes c3, bishop takes c3, attacking the rook. And now it's rook b1. The pawn on e5 cannot really be taken, as that allows white to set up a pin along the e-file, showing that the black king is not happily placed in the center. Black needs to come up with a plan to get the king into safety. And in certain cases, there are these plans to try to bring your king to the queen side by castling in that direction. But here with the rook on the open, half-open b-file, the pawn on b7 is a problem. So castling kingside is the main continuation, but that enables white to regain the pawn with a nice little tactic. Bishop takes h7, king takes h7, queen d3. So white wins back the bishop. King g8, queen takes c3. And this is all kind of known theory. This has been played a couple of times before at the highest level. It's a sharp position with major pieces and opposite colored bishops. The best attacking forces are still on the board. We also see a very nice pawn formation. White has a 4 versus 2 on the king side, whereas black has a majority on the queen side. But that's like a long-term advantage. If white is able to pull off a dangerous attack, then of course that is much more important. So black needs to anticipate potential attacking ideas. And I think that the move a5 is very interesting, with the plan of getting the rook via the 6th rank into defense. That's a very important defender. White played here the rare move queen d3. It's an interesting idea. So white is placing the queen on a slightly better square. And it really helps white to advance the pawn to f5 later on, preventing black from ever setting up a blockade on the f5 square. Black went for the move queen d7, so that you're trying to offer the exchange of queens at some point. And after rook to b5, second idea of white's previous move is to attack the pawn on d5. Now you would expect the move c6, but after the rook goes back, that black rook is no longer able to come over via the 6th rank, as that pawn on c6 blocks the rook. Queen c6 was played. Very interesting move. Queen takes d5, queen takes, rook takes, bishop e6, attacking the rook. Winning the pawn on a2 is something you definitely don't want to see. While taking with the rook first, allows bishop to come to f5. If you take with the queen, the rook on d5 is hanging. If the queen goes somewhere else and keep the rook defended, the pawn on c2 is hanging as well. So after queen c6, bishop a3 was played, attacking the rook on f8. And now things are very interesting as Fedoseev played rook e8. But I should mention that still moves like bishop f5, attacking the queen, and you have the possibility of winning the rook on b5 in case white captures. That's one idea. Second idea, which is worth considering, is b6. So that if white takes on f8, the bishop will come to a6 and black is going to regain material thanks to the skewer on this diagonal. Very interesting options as well. The position in all cases is more or less balanced. A lot can happen still. After rook e8, rook c5 was played, attacking the queen. Queen went to b6. And now you're not really interested in taking the pawn. That really helps black to open the center and consolidate its position. And white played here the move f4. I think this is a more ambitious move, bringing up the f-pawn. And how should black continue? Because we need to find, as black, a new plan to get the rook into the game. So move like a4 with the idea to go rook a5 and pin that rook on c5 as the king is on g1. It's a very interesting original idea to develop your rook. But instead Fedoseev played the move c6. But altogether, I'm not very convinced about black's way of playing a lot of queen moves. Pawn is finally on c6 anyway, and I have the feeling that black has been neglecting the potential dangers on the king side. White goes h3. That's a useful move. Queen a6. Black is offering the exchange of queens. White is not interested. Goes for the move queen g3. But that was black's idea. Now the bishop comes to f5, having its blockading square. But not for long, because queen g5 is on the board, hitting this bishop. If you protect it with g6, the rook will come back to c3 with ideas to swing over to the king side. But also a move like bishop e7, bishop f6 would really demonstrate how vulnerable black's king is, especially on the dark squares. So black will not go for the move g6. That is way too much. That's something you cannot avoid dealing with the dark squared bishop of white. So black went for the move bishop e4. Bishop is stable, but now the bishop comes to b2. And there are ideas to advance the pawn to e6 to open up the diagonal for the bishop and your threatening mate. Black played the move queen b6, which is an attack on the bishop as well as on the rook on c5. But here the bishop comes to d4. That was white's idea. Now the rook is supported and the queen is not that well placed. So it goes back to d8. Every move matters. Every tempo counts. Black really wants to get rid of this queen. But here again, white keeps queens on the board. Plays the move queen g4. Excellent move. And f5 is coming next. And you cannot really stop the pawn from marching forward. If you play g6, there's f5 anyway, and white is breaking through with ideas to go e6, ready to remove the pawn from f7, take on g6, and of course bishop takes f5, rook takes f5 is the killer idea. The pawn on g6 is pinned, cannot therefore take the rook on f5. So g6, here again, it's a bad idea. Black went for the move rook e6, but now white is really fast. The f-pawn comes into action, hits the rook on e6, the rook comes to the h-file. Very interesting idea with the plan of going for the move queen h4. Once again, black really wants to go for the exchange of queens. And it's very simple. White doesn't want it. Play the move rook f4 to protect the h4 square. And now I think the situation is looking very problematic for black, as one of the ideas could be to go e6 or maybe f6 at the right moment. Black played the move queen f8 to overprotect the g7 pawn, so avoiding any mating ideas with the queen and bishop. And one move I like a lot here, but was not played, is to get the other piece into the game. I think rook c3 is such a nice technical move. Bring all your pieces into the attack. I have to say that the rook on c5, it looks a bit odd, to be honest. And well, it's justified because black also wasted quite a big amount of time with its own queen. But after king h2, it's a little bit too slow. There was no need of moving the king away, in my opinion. b6 was played, and now the rook is in trouble. Rook goes back to c3 anyway. But if you had played rook c3 earlier, then you see the bishop also guards these dark squares. So anyway, after king h2, b6, rook c3, black gets in the move c5. Bishop comes to e3. Wait a second, these pieces are standing in a potential fork. Black could play here the move d4, but that runs into rook takes e4 as the bishop is unprotected. If you do take the rook on c3, it's bishop takes h6, and white wins the bishop as black is unable to recapture, while the alternative is to take the bishop on e3, but then after rook takes e3, you lost just a very big pawn, and the attack is still ongoing. Therefore, first, black moved its rook away from h6 to just avoid these problems and protect the pawn on g7 one more time. But that's not what you like to do with your strongest pieces. Black is very passive. Rook b3, attacking the pawn on b6, queen d8, and now f6 on the board. Not with an immediate threat, but you understand, with such a pawn, there's anything possible, anytime. What should black do? That's a very good question. I would say that a move like bishop g6, trying to block the g-file, would give black some hope of trying to consolidate its position. But things are far from simple. And don't forget, guys, this was a rapid game. It's not easy at all. Black played here the move queen e8, attacking the pawn on e5. But definitely the next move was not taken seriously into account by Fedoseev as white played here, fantastic move, e6. This is the killer idea. White is breaking through. If you take with the pawn on e6, it's f7 with a double attack on the king and queen. That's winning material thanks to the rook on f4. While if you take with the queen, the plan is to take on e6. Now white is ready to exchange queens because the pawn comes to f7, is ready to come to f8. The king has to block, and now it's rook takes b6, and it's absolutely game over. As bishop takes c5 is coming next. If you play rook c8, it's bishop takes c5 anyway. Rook takes rook b8, king e7, and now f8 queen. Everything comes with tempo, game over. I thought this was an exciting line to share with you. Instead, there followed the move rook b8, overprotecting the pawn on b6, but this cannot go well for black. If you get these pawns on the 6th rank, something will be opened, and it should just be completely crushing. And look what Nepo did now. Another huge blow. Bishop takes c5. With the point that if the bishop is taken, you take on f7 with check, trying to deflect the queen from the protection of the rook, as that will give white a chance to take on b8. If you take with the king, then it's f takes g7 with check, and the king is in trouble. If you go to e7, you take on b8, queen takes b8, and white gets a new queen. That is crushing. That's game over. If you go back with your king to g8, rook f8 will be there, and that's winning the queen as well. It's a discovered double check. King takes f8, and now rook takes b8. Everything is hanging. So that shows that after bishop takes c5, this bishop cannot be taken. Black desperately played here this move g6, but it's absolutely game over. Bishop d6, hitting the rook, rook to c8, and now white even places its pawn on e7. You have a protected passed pawn on the 7th rank, the queen is blocking it. This is awful news, and don't forget that white is also just having a lot of mating threats once black will try to become active. This king cannot go anywhere. Rook c6, protecting the pawn, attacking the bishop. Bishop e5, rook h5, attacking the bishop. Bishop comes to d4, rook takes c2, counterplay. Rook takes g2 is an idea. How to stop it? Well, rook b2 is a very nice positional move, but was not played. Rook g3 is the aggressive move because you're protecting the pawn on g2 while you're threatening to take on h5 as the pawn on g6 is pinned. King h7, what are you going to do? Is there a crushing way? No, Nepo just takes another pawn. Rook takes a2, so does black. Queen to d1, what is white doing? White is going back with its queen. Is that really a good idea? Wait a second, black goes queen b8. Attacking the rook on f4. If the rook goes away, that's not good. There's rook takes g2, and look, the rook on g3 is not a good defender. It's pinned, and all of a sudden black is winning. This must have been seen by both players. Therefore, white got to find an alternative plan to do something about that rook. White thought, let's take on e4. Let's get rid of that annoying bishop. And after d takes e4, Well, you're an exchange down, but this pawn can be promoted anytime. If white goes for the move queen b3, it looks as if it's game over because the rook is under threat. If the rook goes away, you take on f7, a crucial pawn, after which it's going to be checkmate on g7. That was the simplest move, but instead Nepo played here queen d8. That's the tempting idea. That's why he played the move queen to d1. Now he's offering the exchange of queens. And how can black defend the e8 square? It's impossible. Black just made another move, queen to e5. And now white continued with its plan. It played here the move, e8 queen. Is white winning? Well, that's what Nepo was thinking. But look what's happening now. Rook takes h3. Check, always look at forcing moves. But that's not what Nepo did. He overlooked this move. He cannot take with the rook because of the pin. The rook is pinned, as well as the pawn on g2. It's pinned by the rook on a2. If you do take with the king, the problem is there's queen h5 with checkmate. Incredible. Instead of taking the rook, the only move here is king to g1. But now it's queen a1 check. All the squares, all the remaining squares have been taken away by the major pieces. And this is going to be checkmate. Chess is sometimes really unfair, as white resigned in this position. The only move here is queen to d1, after which the queen is going to be taken and it's checkmate. Such an incredible, painful loss for Nepo. I cannot recall having seen such a huge blunder. Obviously, this had to do with a lack of time. I mean, if you have an hour on the clock, these guys, they're not going to make these kind of mistakes. But it also teaches us that if you're completely winning, just make sure that you have seen the final trick of your opponent. It's a sort of mental state of mind that you need to be alert. You know that everything is winning. Just one more good move, rule out the final option for the opponent, and then you win the game. That's what Nepo forgot to do, and he lost this position. Unbelievable. Well, I'm speechless. I hope you liked this video. Make sure to subscribe once again, and then more exciting swindles to come, hopefully.